I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street. This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock...
Good morning, my name's Gerard and I'm one of the guides here at the Victoria Tunnel, but you haven't come here to meet me at all. This young man here is Basil, he's the person you really want to meet, and this strange person here, this is Pete. We'll come to them in a moment. Shall we start with something simple? We're doing the Second World War. I'm just checking because occasionally people come in and say, actually no, we wanted the Victorians. But we're doing the Second World War. We assume you know a great deal about the Second World War. Oh, there's a little nod of the head there. So if I ask you a question, you will get it right. And the question is a simple question just to get us started. And the question is, when did the war begin? Anybody can help her? Go on. 1939. What an excellent answer, except actually what I wanted was the day, the date and the time. Oh, you think you can do this? Good lad. No, 1939 was an excellent and correct answer. She was correct. 1945 was when it ended.
3rd of September.
3rd of September. Did you hear that?
3rd of September.
He's happy
right.
with the 3rd of
Yes.
September.
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock on the 3rd of September. Do you happen to know what day of the week it was? There's only 7 to choose from. Go on.
This one's, I guess, Monday.
No, and if we keep going, we will get it right.
Wednesday.
No.
Tuesday.
No. Shall I tell you? Go on, quickly.
Saturday.
No.
Thursday.
No. I think there's only one left now, isn't there?
No. Friday.
No. 2 left.
Sunday.
Sunday! Was it Sunday?
Sunday it was, yes.
11 o'clock. How did they know they were at war? Everybody just get up at 11 o'clock and say, oh, we're at war. How did they know we were at war? Yeah?
Because Neville Chamberlain made a speech
And where did he make that speech?
on the BBC broadcast.
Excellent. What an excellent answer. Good lad. 11 o'clock in the morning, Neville Chamberlain, who was the Prime Minister, goes on the radio and says, we're now at war. Now look at me, please, and be careful how you answer this question. Watch. Was I alive during the war? Whoa! They're all nodding their heads here. I was alive during the war. Thank you. You're nice.
I don't
I was born in 1952. You've already worked out that was it, you said 1945, didn't you? 7 years after the war had ended. Was Peter alive during the... Actually, I don't know when you were born. Were you alive during the war?
No.
Oh. So when were you born?
I was born in 1969, 30 years after the war broke out.
Oh. Right, now look at Basil and be kind. How old do you think Basil is?
86.
86. He likes you. He likes you.
You've got to get up a little bit, I think.
Are you 90 years old?
Yes, who said that?
There. Excellent.
Excellent.
Guess. 90
Yes.
years old. Now
Exactly right.
You have to do some maths now. Oh, yes. If he's 90, he was actually 90, and this might help you, in August 2019, right? He was 90. Shall we ask the teacher to do the maths?
Yeah. No.
Oh, should we really?
No, I can do them.
You're going to do it. How old was he when the war started then? We've already worked out the war started in 1939.
So,
How old was he when the war started?
was it 10?
Were you 10 when the war started?
Yeah, you're good, lad.
Excellent
You're good at maths,
answer.
yes.
How old are all of you?
11.
Well, so 9, 10, 11. So he was actually around your age when the war started. He was your age when the war started. And he lived just up the street here. Let's imagine you're his mum and dad. You have to keep him safe. What are you smiling for? You could be his mum and dad. You have to keep him safe during the war. How are you going to keep him safe? We know that bombs are going to be dropped. They were dropped at the end of the First World War. More bombs are going to be dropped in the Second World War. How are you going to keep him safe? You could evacuate. That's a big word, that. I might have to come back to you. That's excellent. You could evacuate him. Any other answers? Evacuate. Put him in an air raid shelter. Any names for air raid shelters?
Like tunnels.
You could put him in the tunnel. Is that it? Are we happy now? Yeah?
Put them in the Victoria Tunnel.
The Victoria Tunnel. Everybody happy? We're going to come back to you, please, because I'm not very clever. I don't know. What does evacuate actually mean?
It's like where you get your children to go to a different place few and most of them keep safe and then they're having too much time.
So you send them away somewhere where they would be safe, so out of the city, probably into the countryside somewhere. Have you met anybody who's been evacuated? Oh, you haven't. Have you met anybody today who has been evacuated? Well, you looked at somebody there. Have you? You think you have. You think you have. Who do you think you've met? Well, have you? Ask him. Ask him nicely.
Were you evacuated?
Were you evacuated, Basil?
Oh yes, I was evacuated. We turned up at school 2 days before the war started on a Friday. Teachers called the register and we got a little label on our coats to make sure we didn't get lost. And we went down to the station, got on a train, went to Bonner Castle. My school went to Bonner Castle, but other schools went to different places. When we got up at Bonner Castle, we all assembled in a hall, church hall, and people who had rooms at Bonner Castle came down and picked us out, and there we stayed. Sometimes some of the people, but not all, some of the people would maybe pick you out for what you might be useful for in the house. For instance, if I was one of them like that, I'd come down and have a look. Oh, that lad there, he might be good at cutting the hedge and mowing the lawn. I'll have a word with the billeting officer and we'll have this boy. Or that girl there might be good at hanging the clothes out and doing the washing, so we'll have that one. Anyway, that didn't happen. That happened to some children, but it didn't happen to me. I was a bit lucky. I was chosen by somebody called Mrs. Little. Her husband had been called up, and so she had plenty of rooms. She was also able to take my brother as well. So we didn't get separated. She looked after me quite normally. I didn't have to do any housework. Anyway, between September and December, nothing happened. No bombs were being dropped. Nobody was getting shot. That part of the war was called a phony war. Something odd about it, wasn't quite right. Anybody in school do French? Ah, right. Well, I can tell you, the French didn't call it the phony war, they called it a funny war. They called it the drôle de guerre. Drôle is a French word for funny, and guerre, of course, is a French word for war. That's what the French called it, drôle de guerre. The Germans couldn't understand it anyway as well, because they called it a sitting war. Everybody's sitting around instead of fighting. That's called a Sitzkrieg in German. But anyway, so at Christmas, when we came home for Christmas holidays, we didn't go back. So that evacuation fizzled out. And the schools, which had closed in the big cities, reopened again. The other thing about the evacuation, you didn't have to go on it. It wasn't compulsory. But if you didn't go with the school, you wouldn't be able to go to school at all, because the schools...
Oh, that's bad news, isn't it? You can't go to school.
The schools in big cities that were likely to be bombed just closed down. But after the evacuation fizzled out, they reopened again. So we still had to go back to school.
Imagine if tonight we told you you had to be evacuated. You all have to turn up in Newcastle at the central station with a tiny little case, even smaller than the ones you take on an aircraft. You can only have that little case, and you can't bring with you any mobile phones, any tablets, none of that. He couldn't take his mobile phone with him. Yes? You're going to communicate with your parents, you're going to have to write them a letter. And it's going to take a couple of days to get them, and maybe a couple of days to get back. That's it. Oh, there's your case. That's all you're taking with you. That's it. Including your cuddly toy inside. And yes, you're all bringing your cuddly toy. Oh, and the good news is the teacher's coming with you. That's good news, isn't it? Would you like to be evacuated? You don't know where you're going, you don't know when you're coming back, you don't know who you're going to live with. Would you like that? No, terrible. Lots of kids hated it. Some of them ran away. Many of them wrote to their parents and said, come and take me back, and they did. But Basil, you didn't like being evacuated, did you?
Actually, I did.
You would.
But I was maybe a little bit different because when I was your age, I was a little bit of a rascal. I tended to be a bit adventurous. And for me, the evacuation was like going away on holiday and not having your parents keeping their eye on you. So I was quite looking forward to it. But a lot of children were homesick. They didn't like the people they were staying with, or they missed their parents. They were unhappy. Those children generally came home a bit early. But I stayed the full time from up till December.
So Basil comes home in December, nothing's happening in Newcastle, so he just stays here with his parents. But we know the bombs are going to come, so we have to keep him safe in Newcastle. And somebody over here said air raid shelters. Who said, excellent. Do you know the name of any air raid shelters? There's the Victoria Tunnel. Do you know any other air raid shelters? Has anybody heard of an Anderson shelter? Oh, there's a nod coming from over here. So you have heard of an Anderson shelter. An Anderson shelter is like the IKEA air raid shelter. It looks like this. You get it in a flat pack. It comes and gets delivered to your house. You had to pay for it. How much was it? Was it?
I'm not sure how much
£6, was it?
It was done on
£7. If you couldn't afford it, they would give you one. But basically, you had to pay £7, and you had to dig a big hole in the garden. Do you want to pass that round? And you put this stuff called corrugated iron up like that in the hole, bolted at the top, get all the soil you've dug out the hole and put it on the top so it can't be seen from above, and it makes it stronger. And then once you've done it, you can climb in like that. And you can be safe in your Anderson shelter when the air raid. Anderson shelters, these were good places to be, were they?
They kept you safe, but they weren't very nice places to be in for too long because they were always damp and wet and cold and dark. You wouldn't go in an Anderson shelter in your slippers or your shoes. You'd have a pair of welly boots at the door because they were all a bit muddy. And also things live in the soil like worms, snails, slugs. These could be in the shelter as well. It's all right if you like worms, some people do. But they did keep you safe. If the house got bombed and fell on top of the shelter wouldn't collapse. You might not be able to get out because the entrance would be blocked. But after the air raid, somebody would come and move the rubble away and pull you out. You would be perfectly safe. But they were a bit cold to begin. And on a really wet period of time, if the garden got soaked, say it was raining for a week, some of these shelters actually got flooded. Not all of them, but some of them did. So, but they did keep you safe.
So they weren't very nice, but they kept you safe. Do you want the bad news? Around here, they couldn't have Anderson shelters, because to have an Anderson shelter, you need a garden. And round here, they didn't have gardens, they had backyards. And there was another kind of shelter you could have inside your house. Anybody heard of that? Anybody heard of a Morrison shelter? A Morrison shelter is basically a big table. A table this sort of size. Very strong though. Strong metal legs, metal top, wire mesh around the table. And then at night, you can crawl into the table and you can sleep in it. And people did. Some people would go in at night whether the air raid siren had been sounded or not, because then they were in, and if it was sounded, they were already there. And they would be kept safe. This is a picture we found of a sort of double-decker one, like a set of bunks. I presume it was in a boarding house for workmen or something. And people stayed in there. Were Morrison shelters any better than Anderson shelters?
Yes, they were a lot better than an Anderson shelter because you could have these in a house which is warm, and you can actually put a mattress in and sleep in them. Again, they're very, very strong. If the house did collapse, the shelter wouldn't collapse. You just have to be dug out, but that's easy. The only thing you might get if the house did collapse when you pulled out is possibly a sore throat, because when a building falls down, a lot of dust flies up in the air and you will breathe some of this in. But that, otherwise you wouldn't be hurt at all. But they were very warm and safe. You had to have a room big enough to put them in, mind, because they were quite large and they were very, very heavy. Only put them on the ground floor. Try and put them upstairs, they might come through the floor.
Do you want the bad news? People around here couldn't have Morrison shelters because their houses weren't big enough. And actually, you looked at them as houses, most of them, thank you, most of them were flats. So half the people were living on the first floor, and as Basil just said, we don't want somebody up there with a Morrison shelter, it'll just come through the floor on top of us. So you couldn't have an Anderson shelter, and you couldn't have a Morrison shelter. And that's why at least two of you over here, I can't remember who said it, have said they should go in the Victoria Tunnel and shelter in the tunnel. Have you met anybody who used the tunnel as an air raid shelter? You haven't? Have you met anybody today who used... You think you have. Who do you think you've met today who used... Ask them nicely. Go on. Did you ever use, she wants to know, did you ever use the Victoria Tunnel?
Yes, often. We used to go down the Victoria Tunnel when the air raid warning sounded. But even in the war years, the streets weren't lit up and it was a bit difficult getting home in the blackout. I used the Victoria Tunnel to come home in if I was in town, because there were 7 entrances. But the Victoria Tunnel was a very good air raid shelter. Now, if you're ever in an air raid, one of the things you'll remember most about it is the noise they make. Air raids are extremely noisy, very, very noisy. In fact, the noise is a bit scary. But in the Victoria Tunnel, you're so deep underneath the ground, you wouldn't know there was an air raid on. The only thing you hear in the tunnel is people chatting, talking, or sometimes there might be a sing-song, but mostly talking. You don't even hear the old clear sound. You had to be told. An air raid warden on duty would tell you when the all clear sound, this is what it would be like.
All clear!
That's it.
Yeah, it could shock you.
Oh,
Not in
then
the tunnel,
when
it
that
wouldn't shock
happens,
you.
we all get up and go home. But there's one question we lads always used to ask. We'd get hold of somebody with a watch. Hey, mister, what's the time?
It's a minute to 12.
Oh, good, a minute after 12.
No.
It's a minute to 12.
Cheating.
Minute to 12?
Yeah.
Oh, is your watch not a little bit slow?
No, it's right. Come on, a minute to 12.
Oh dear, that's bad. I don't know why the Germans couldn't stay a bit longer. If it had been after 12 o'clock, after midnight, I could have had them all off school.
You wouldn't want to take them on off school, would you?
Yes.
Yeah, another nod there, yes. And there's no cheating. When you turn up in the afternoon at school and say, I was in the Victoria Tunnel to 12:minutes, this is Pete, he's logged the time and your teacher knows you truanted this morning. Yeah.
Anyway, the longest time I was ever in the Victoria Tunnel was actually for 2.5 hours. And when I came back, people who had work to do on the top said nothing had happened. But what had happened that night, the bombers had come over here, but they were dropping the bombs somewhere else. We were not the target. We didn't get the all clear until they flew back again. I did get them all off school that day. Now, during that time, if you're that long in the tunnel, you might need to go to the toilet. Well, we did have chemical toilets in, and these were cleaned out by people called shelter wardens. These shelter wardens also kept the tunnel generally tidy and changed any broken electric light bulbs. But when they were cleaning the toilets out, they used a very strong disinfectant with a chemical in it called phenol. Now, I've got a bottle here it's actually TCP, which is trichlorphenol. It smells exactly like the disinfectant. When you go to your next school, some of you might do chemistry, then you'll know what phenol smells like. but it's quite strong. But you could smell this if you were sitting in the tunnel nowhere near the toilet. I'll come round with the bottle so you have a little sniff, so you'd know what the toilets used to smell like. Actually, some of you will like the smell, others don't. Have a little sniff.
You used to gargle with it. Did you hear that? Pete used to gargle with this for his throat.
Sore throat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every school, and my grandma smelt of TCT. Yeah, it was a nice clean smell.
Every school used to have it in their first aid. And if you got a cut, they put that on it to clean the cut. And I'm certain they only did it because it hurt. And if it hurt, you thought, I'm not going to fall over again. I'm not doing that again.
Who likes the smell?
Anybody like the smell? Oh, so you like the smell?
Well,
Anybody
this girl
hate
likes the smell, do you?
Yeah.
Except for perfume. You go home smelling like a hospital.
So there he is, Basil, safe in the tunnel. Underground, safe. There is something else he needs to take with him everywhere he goes. Go on, say it out loud, go on. A gas mask. He needs to take a gas mask with him. Well, we happen to have a gas mask here. Oh, yeah. Actually, this is a child's gas mask. It's supposed to look like something. Any ideas what it's supposed to look like? If I tell you it's a cartoon character, yes?
Face.
It is meant to look like a face. It's a particular face.
Wally.
You think it looks like Wally. Was Wally even around in the Second World War?
No.
Where's Wally's after the war?
No, not that one. The
Not-
Pixar Wally.
Pixar Wally. I don't think the Pixar Wally
No,
was
that
it.
definitely wasn't. No.
Gru.
Who?
Gru.
Gru. Actually, I think they thought it looked like Minnie Mouse, Mickey Mouse. Does it look like Mickey Mouse?
Nah.
They thought if it looked like this cartoon character, children would be more likely to... Whoa, yes?
Spider-Man?
You think it looks like Spider-Man? Maybe. Now, I'd like to hand this round so you could all see it, but I can't. Because actually in here, as well as a big piece of charcoal to stop the gas getting through, there's a piece of asbestos. And asbestos, they didn't know, is poisonous. So if you wore this all the time, you're breathing in it. Yes, I know. What a crazy idea that is. Asbestos, poisonous, put it in the gas mask. You need to pray. Is yours a new school or an old school? Oh, you could have asbestos in the school. You need to pray to find asbestos in the school. Yes, you do, because then they have to close it for a couple of weeks. And you could, yes, they're not going to find it now. If they're going to find it, they would have found it before now. However, this one we can hand around. So you got a gas mask at some point, Basil.
Yeah. I got my gas mask in August 1939, which was a month before the war started. What you had to do, you had to go to a distribution centre and get one that actually fits you, because everybody's face is different size. If you get one which is too small, it wouldn't go on. You wouldn't be able to put it on. And if you had a gas mask which was too big for you, it wouldn't stay on. Anyway, we got a gas mask. People carry these around with them, at least for the first 18 months to 2 years. But we never really needed them at all, because nobody used gas in the Second World War. But it was used in the First World War, and we thought it might be used again. That's why everybody got a gas mask. I had to take them to school with me. If I turned up at school and I left my gas mask, the teacher would simply send me home to get it. And when I got back, I would get a late mark. But we had to learn how to put them on fairly quickly. So today at school you have fire drill once a term, but we had gas mask drill. And it wasn't once a term, it could be once a day, it could be 3 times a day. It was entirely up to the teacher. In my school, what would happen, the teacher would be taking a lesson, just like I'm talking to you now, and without any warning, he would shout, gas attack, and then he'd start counting, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And after the count of 4, you'd expect every boy and girl in the classroom to be sitting with the gas mask on. If you're still fiddling with your gas mask, you could be in trouble with the teacher. We learned how to put them on. There's a little bit of a knack. If you know it, it's quite easy. First of all, there's 3 straps. One left, one right, one in the middle. Don't take any notice of the one in the middle. It's only there to keep it on your head. You've only got 2 things to remember. The first thing to remember is how to hold the gas mask. Don't hold it like that with your fingers, because when you try to put it on, it's quite possible that the straps will be twisted and it wouldn't sit very comfortably. But you hold it with your thumbs, like that. And you can stick your fingers up in the air so that they don't get in the way. That's the first thing to remember. The second thing to remember is always put your chin inside the gas mask first. If you try putting your nose in first, like that, you miss your mouth. So you put your chin in first. The way to get your chin is tilt your head back a little bit. I'll demonstrate it if you watch carefully.
Watch carefully. I'll watch carefully.
Right. First thing, remember how to hold it. Right. Next thing, chin in first. Put my head back, chin in. There we are.
Yeah, doesn't he look good? Looks like something off Doctor Who. Mm-hmm.
I've done this hundreds of times, but occasionally I mess it up myself, but I didn't on that occasion. Right. Do you think you can able to do it?
You're going to do this, are you?
No,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking.
You're just thinking, are you going to do this? You're going to do it. Go on. Go on, off you go.
Go on,
Pete,
then.
get in here. Yeah. He needs to
Remember
watch
how
it.
to hold
He's the
it,
air
and
raid man.
remember
He's
put
watching.
your chin in first.
There will be consequences if you get it wrong. Go on, you can do it. You can do it.
Remember your fingers.
Very good. Very good.
You've got it
You're
down.
going to do this.
See, that gas mask
Yeah,
is
you
too
are.
big. But as Basil
Well,
said,
it won't fit everybody, but
Are you going to do this?
remember, what I would do is wiggle your fingers.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Mouth's not
That's
in.
a cheat. You cheated there.
Yeah.
Air raid man's, he's not happy with that at all. Chin back. That's it. Yes. Go on. Oh, you had it. You had it. You had it.
Yeah, chin in, head
Yes, that's excellent.
back.
Yeah.
Don't put your head down when you get your chin in, because then it comes off your chin. Just pass it around. Anybody else who wants to try it?
You're not going to do it either. There's nobody down this. Are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? Right. It looks like he's the last one who's going to do it. Yeah. Very good, very good. Just give that here for a minute, please. Because do you want to know a secret? They've all cheated. All of them have cheated. Because it wasn't handed to you and you picked it up. It was in a box on the floor. Right? Under your desk. Could you just do me a favour? Just put that under his desk. Put your hands up where we can see them. Want your hands on the desk, please. Right? In a minute, Basil will shout gas attack. Right? I don't know when he'll shout that. When he shouts gas attack, we'll go 1, 2, 3. When he gets to 3, you have to have that gas mask carefully out of our box. Don't bang your head on the table, and you have to put it on. Right? You can do this, can you? You can do this. Of course you can do it. I don't know when you say. My mother, who was a teenager during the war, hated her gas mask. She used to try and leave it at home as much as possible.
gas attack. 1, 2,
Whoa!
3.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Excuse me, that's as far as he's got. I'm afraid you're in big trouble now. Go on, you have a try putting the gas mask on, but Pete, the air raid warning, has seen that you failed to do this. Go on, just put it on. You put it on for us.
You'll be in trouble, you get a fine.
That's all. Yeah, yes.
Well, you did it right.
Good lad.
Yes.
Well done. Well done. Well done. So there we are. You're safely below ground, and you've got your gas mask. Not everybody could go below ground, though, could they?
No, there were some people who could not go into an air raid shelter during an air raid because they had jobs to do. These were firemen who had to put out fires, ambulance drivers, policemen on duty, and of course our ARP man, he couldn't go in an shelter. What he would have to do, he would be around, and if a bomb dropped in the street, he would have to go to make sure nobody was buried under it. And when a bomb drops, pieces of metal from the bomb called shrapnel fly all over the place. Here's some actual shrapnel. That's from a casing of a bomb. And this piece here is from an anti-aircraft gun. Now, if I'm outside and this is flying around, something hits me on the head, I could be knocked out. If I was an ARP man or a fireman, I wouldn't be much use. But they were given a steel helmet. So if anything, I put this on, if anything hits me on the head now, it wouldn't knock me out. We didn't call them a steel helmet, they were actually called a tin hat. People referred to them as a tin hat, but they're certainly not made of tin, because tin's far too soft, it wouldn't protect your head, but steel does. There's a little test we can carry out just to prove it. It's in 2 parts, and it takes 2 people to carry out the test. So I would like one of you to come out to be a volunteer and help me to show you that it does protect your head. You would like to come out? Come on then.
What's your name?
It's Jack.
Jack. Just remember, everybody, Jack volunteered to do this. Nobody made him do this.
Okay.
Jack's dropped himself in.
Yeah.
First test, first part 1. What I'm going to do is put it on my head.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll come down a little bit.
Okay.
With your hand
Yeah.
on the top of the helmet, not at the side, give me a thump and see if it gives me a headache. Oh, you've got to go harder than that. Harder! Harder! Come on.
Jack, I'm just pointing out, you're just hitting a 90-year-old man.
Stick in your hand a little
And
bit.
all these people are witnesses.
Sorry.
Let's have a look to see if you've done any damage. No. Can you do that?
Yeah.
No, you haven't broken any fingers.
No.
Well, you didn't give me a headache, lad.
Okay.
So just a minute. We've now come to part 2
That's
of the
part
test.
1. Part 2 comes
You won't
now.
sting your hand in this part.
Now remember everyone, Jack volunteered.
Oh.
Okay?
Right,
Who's
does
made
that
him do
feel all
this?
right?
Yeah.
Doesn't feel too heavy?
No.
No? Oh, well. Is that giving you a headache?
No, it only just hurts it slightly.
No, you feel it, yes, but does it give you a headache?
No.
No?
That's actually quite funny, honestly.
Just a minute, I'm going to give it a real test.
That,
Ah! Now have you got a headache?
no.
No, you haven't.
Doesn't need to hurt.
So you're quite happy it does protect your head?
Yeah.
Yes.
Has my hair dyed anything?
You're fine, you're fine.
Okay.
Right.
That mark will clear eventually.
So everybody, so you know what it all feels like. So it's quite heavy, but it's not bad. I'll pass the helmet around and keep your hands off the top because our ARP man is going to come round and test it.
Oh.
Okay, put it on your head.
What do you mean, no? Don't be such a wimp.
Underneath the chin. And then make sure you leave your hands out the way.
Didn't even notice it. I told you there'd be consequences if you didn't get the gas mask right.
If you don't want to be hit over the head, I won't hit you. You can try it on just to see how it
Oh, he never says that to me.
well, I don't give you the helmet.
Oh,
Do you want to be hit? That's fine. I won't hit you over the head if you don't want to be hit. Go on, I won't, trust me, I won't.
I wouldn't trust him. I'd keep looking at him, yeah.
Okay.
These ones have to be tested. What? You wouldn't even put the gas mask on? He's coming. It's not, it doesn't hurt, it just sort of, oh dear. It just sort of on your head, doesn't it? Mm. Whoa.
Doesn't hurt. I wouldn't be able to do it if it hurt.
He would. It does hurt.
Let me see.
Go on. Oh, yes.
That's fine. I won't think go ahead.
He's got his fingers crossed, I'm just telling you.
Really close. Really lazy. Heavy, isn't it? You don't be hit, okay? Fine. Oh, she hasn't said she doesn't want to be hit. I think we should actually give the teacher a turn, shouldn't we? But how hard shall I do it? Very hard! So remember who said very hard.
Oh!
Very hard.
Yeah. Take a run.
Take a run.
Take a run at it. Take a run at it. Yeah. Oh, you didn't hit it hard enough. Right, so we've got Basil safe now. We've got our ARP man above ground looking after him, making sure everything's okay. There is something else though he has to carry with him everywhere he goes or he gets into trouble. Something he has to carry with him or he gets into trouble. Yeah?
Like his address.
It is like his address, yeah?
Like his name on his
It is exactly that. It is his name and his address. He has to carry with him an ID card. This is one of those, well actually this is a replica, it's a pretend one. I can pass this round and then you can see it. But this one here.
This is a real identity card. It happens to be mine. It's the only thing I've survived from the war years. Inside, it's got a number on the top. That's my national registration number. Nobody has exactly the same number. If you lived during the war years, you would each have your own ID card and you'd all have your own individual number. It's got your name and address in and a stamp, a police stamp. Now, if you moved house from one street to another or from one town to another during the war years, you had to take your ID card to the police station. They write your new address in. I moved from Rock Street to Fulton Street, and they put another stamp on it. Now, it was compulsory for everybody to carry one of these around with them. You could be in a bit of trouble if you didn't have it and you were stopped, because anybody who was wearing a uniform, could be an army officer or policeman, even an ARP man or a WVS woman, if she was wearing a uniform, could stop and ask you to see your identity card and you'd have to produce it. Now let's say I was out in the street with some of my mates and I hadn't got my identity card with me. This could happen.
Oi, where's your ID card?
It's in my other pocket at home.
It's in your other pocket.
Yeah.
I'm no excuse. What's your name?
Oh, MacLeod.
First name?
Basil.
Right, MacLeod, what's your address?
8 Rock Street.
8 Rock Street. Right, 3 days to take to a police station, otherwise you're in big trouble. Now go and get off with you.
Yes, sir. I would have to go down to the police station and show them I really did have an ID card. And I'd get another ticket off from the policeman for not carrying it. If you did that too often, got stopped too often with you had it, you could get fined. So, now, when I went to school during the war years and before, it was a lot different to what it is today. The teachers, my teachers only needed 2 things to take a lesson. one was a piece of chalk, because every classroom had a chalkboard, something like this. Teacher would use the chalk to write on the board. I put one on the board there. We'll make another one.
This is the interactive whiteboard, and it was very interactive. The chalk could fly across the classroom and hit
There
you.
we are. That's what happened. If somebody
I was
was...
checking, did you get it right? You got it right.
I'll keep the some simple in case I make a mistake.
Oh, no, no. Oh, I can do that.
There we are.
Square root of 25.
Yes, what is it?
5.
Yeah, you have to think about that
did,
one,
yeah.
you're right. Anyway, if the teacher was writing on the board and somebody was making a bit of a racket in the class, the chalk would suddenly become a flying missile straight across. One of my teachers was called Mrs. Clark. She was quite good at it. The chalk really missed. The other thing the teachers had was one of these. Because if you were not paying attention or chatting to one of your mates, the teacher would pull you out and give you a smack on the hand, get the strap. Both the chalk and the strap has been scrapped. Don't use it anymore, do you? No.
You never got the strap, did you?
The teachers today has all gone soft. They were a lot tougher when I was there. Anyway, if anybody would like to know what it was like, put your hand out, I'll demonstrate it.
Oh. Go on then.
Oh, some brave lad. Come on then. Anybody else?
Go on. Yeah, there's one here. One here.
Yeah, this guy.
Go on, you want to. No, there's one there. Yeah, there's over this side.
Again.
And there. Right.
No.
There we are.
Right, this lad would like what? What's the matter?
Actually, that was only a little tap, but what really would happen, put your hand up. I'll show you how it was really done. The teacher would bring the strap over his shoulder and come down very fast, like this.
Whoa, did he pulled his hand away?
I missed.
There was something else Basil had to have. He didn't have to carry it everywhere, but if he didn't have it, actually he wouldn't eat. He had to have something called a ration book. So you had a ration book?
Yes, there were 3 types of ration books. This was for food. We had a green ration book. That was for children under 5. A blue one for children between 5 and 14. And after you're 14, you got an adult's book. You know, when you went to get your rations, you couldn't buy your food anywhere. You had to first register with the shop and stick with it. And you also registered with a butcher to buy meat. When you went to get your rations, you had to take the book with you so the shopkeeper could mark off the week. And what you got varied a little bit. It went up and down during the war years. But on average, you didn't get a lot of food. 1 egg per person per week. Unless, of course, you had a green ration book and you're under 5, and you could get 2 eggs, but otherwise only 1 egg. Butter, 50 grams. Margarine, which is like flour, 100 grams. Many people mix
that butter,
together.
you could have had that on your toast this morning.
Yes.
And that was for a week.
Cheese was also 50 grams of cheese.
Again, that's like you would have for 1 meal.
Bacon, you could get 100 grams of bacon, which is roughly 5 slices of bacon for a week. Sugar, you could get 225 grams of sugar, but don't forget, a lot of people did home baking, So you had to use the sugar for baking your cakes. Sweets, you were allowed to buy 220 grams of sweets.
Well, that looks
but
all right, doesn't it?
Not every week.
What do you mean not every week?
220 grams of sweets had to last you for 4 weeks.
4 weeks for that?
Yes. So you bought little ones, because you got a lot. But if you bought something like that, 3.5, this is 3.5 ounces, the weight's on here. Now, we don't use ounces anymore, but 3.5 ounces is roughly 98, 99 grams. That bar of chocolate would need to last you for a week and 3 days.
That would last me 2 minutes at that point.
The other thing that was rationed, of course, was clothes. But unlike food, you could buy your clothes anywhere, any clothes shop. Because clothes was rationed on a point system. And there's the points. They were like stamps. You took your ration book, your pink ration book, and the shopkeeper would cut out the right number of points. Now, everybody was given 48 points for 1 year. But because you're still growing up, your clothes get too tight for you, too small for you, much quicker than an adult's clothes. So the government did let you have an extra 10 points.
No, he's got that
58.
wrong. Sorry, he's got that. Look, I mean, look at the size of her and look at the size of me. So I get 58 points.
No, she gets 58.
No, surely I'm bigger than her.
The government,
She gets 10 points more than me.
Gerard, you do not argue with the government.
That doesn't seem fair to me. It is fair. You think it isn't? I don't think. Right, we're going to see how many points she's worth today.
Yeah, well, wait a minute. I think you are wearing more than 29 points, because 29 points is 6 months' supply.
Right.
And what you've got on the day, I think, comes a bit more.
You have to do the adding up now. Is everybody ready for this? We'll start at the bottom.
Well, I'll find it in a minute.
Right, she's got shoes on.
Shoes, I want 3 points for your shoes.
3 points. She's got tights on, socks.
That's 1.
1. 3 add 1 is... I know that was easy, but let's get started. She's wearing a skirt.
A skirt is 5 points.
4 add 5. 9. What are you laughing for? She's got a nice big coat on.
That's 11 points.
11 points. 20, thank you. She's got a jumper on.
Jumper, 6 points.
6 points. She's got a shirt on.
Shirt is 5 points.
5 points. 31.
31, you're over 6 months now.
I'm not being personal, but we're presuming you're wearing underwear. Yeah, underwear. Who said that? Right, he said knickers. We didn't say it, he did. Right.
Knickers? He said it. 3 points.
3 points, where are we up to? 34 points, 34 points, right. Now, this is the war. When you go home tonight, your house has an outside toilet. So if you're going to go up the toilet tonight, it's going to be cold. So first of all, I don't care what you wear in bed, we're giving you pyjamas.
Pyjamas are 6 points.
6. Come on, 6 on 40. As I say, you might have to go out to the toilet at night. We're going to give you a dressing gown, because it'll be cold. Dressing gown.
A dressing gown would be 8 points.
8 points. 48. You better have some slippers on your feet as well, hadn't you?
Slippers is 2 points.
2 points, what's that? 50 points. So you've used up 50 points to come to school, put your pyjamas on, put your dressing gown on, put your slippers on. That's it. How many points has she got left? 8. Who said it over there? 8. You've got 8 points. Whoa, stop. Who sits next to her in class? You don't want to sit next to her. We've only given her 1 set of underwear, as he likes to call them knickers, and 1 pair of tights. She's going to smell after a day or 2. So if we give you extra underwear and tights, that's it for the whole year. You've got no other clothes to wear. Have you got a big sister?
No.
You've got a little sister's no good.
You've got a little sister. Your little sister's lucky.
Yeah.
You're not. Because when your little sister grows up to your size, some of the clothes that you're finished with, she could get. But if you had a bigger sister, you would do the same thing. What you would have to do is probably get some points from your mum's ration book or your dad's ration book.
Go on, you sit yourself down. If she falls down in the tunnel today and she goes home and she's ripped her tights, they'll just, oh no, that's another pair of tights we have to buy. Not during the war they wouldn't. They would have told you to mend your tights. They had these posters called Make, Do and Mend, and you have to stitch them back together. Now we need to leave now. Pete needs to take you down to the tunnel. One final thing. When you get back to school tomorrow, I'm sure the exciting thing... Sit still, please. Just sit still for a minute. Sit still. The exciting thing is going in a tunnel, and if you're lucky, they'll get you to see what a proper blackout's like. Yeah, I know. However, I suspect when you get back to school tomorrow, the really exciting thing is you met somebody who lived through the war, who was your age when the war was on, who was evacuated, who went into the tunnel, who went into air raid shelters, who stood in an air raid when he didn't get in the tunnel one night and heard the bombs going off around him. Yeah. So I think the only thing we need to do now is to say thank you to Basil. So could you say thank you to Basil, please? Right, stand
I hope
up,
you enjoyed all.
outside in a nice line.